The traditional corporate playbook operates on a foundational deception that hyper-competence accelerates your vertical mobility. In reality, exceptional execution triggers a systemic trap known as performance punishment. When you consistently solve institutional crises and effortlessly carry the operational weight of an entire department, the matrix does not see an executive candidate. It sees and falls an irreplaceable infrastructure asset. Promoting you out of your current role becomes an immediate risk to the company's daily stability, because replacing your raw output costs the institution far more than keeping you contained. The very competence you weaponize to break through the ceiling is the exact structural anchor the system uses to harden it. Welcome to the audit of the competence paradox. The corporate ecosystem operates on a highly transactional model that quietly penalizes maximum efficiency. When you consistently deliver high-yield execution ahead of deadlines, you do not trigger a reward mechanism. Instead, you activate performance punishment. Management immediately recognizes your capacity as a friction-free dumping ground for overflow tasks, systematically routing failing projects and administrative chaos onto your desk. This creates a hidden corporate tax where your reward for exceptional speed is simply a double workload with zero matching adjustments to your compensation or corporate status. Because you absorb operational stress so seamlessly, the leadership team sees no structural incentive to alter your current positioning. You become an algorithmic victim of your own competence, subsidizing the inefficiencies of wider organization while draining your personal reserves. This baseline exploitation establishes a permanent operational ceiling, transforming your raw professional output into a structural cage that limits your long-term mobility. Becoming tactically irreplaceable is the most dangerous professional milestone you can foray and achieve within a legacy corporate hierarchy. When your specialized execution, system knowledge, and daily problem-solving capabilities become the singular engine keeping a department functional, you experience the asset lock. Executive mobility requires that a position can be easily backfilled without disrupting the company's core revenue or daily workflows. If promoting you means the entire operational infrastructure below you will collapse or require massive capital to restructure, decision makers will deliberately freeze your career progression. They will happily placate your ambition with minor salary increments, superficial verbal praise, or hollow performance awards, but they will never grant you a vertical promotion. The matrix values immediate department stability far more than your individual career trajectory. Your exceptional mastery over localized tasks effectively transforms you from an ambitious executive candidate into a permanent, immovable piece of corporate infrastructure. In any standard corporate environment, a massive imbalance exists between raw output and personal accountability, giving rise to the competency cushion. Low performance liabilities and mediocre political operators routinely survive within the system by shifting their operational weight onto your back. Because the leadership team knows your hyper-competence will automatically catch every falling ball and correct every structural error, they tolerate widespread mediocrity across the department. Your flawless execution creates a safety net that masks the absolute incompetence of your peers, allowing them to redirect their energy toward internal networking, corporate visibility, and political positioning. While you are buried under mountains of complex technical deliverables, these low-yield liabilities are free to build strategic relationships with executive stakeholders. You are essentially financing their corporate survival with your cognitive labor, ensuring they remain unburdened enough to leapfrog past you on the vertical ladder while you remain trapped anchoring the floor. Breaking free from the competence trap requires a clinical recalibration of your daily output through an under-promise monopoly. True corporate leverage is never built by maintaining a transparent, hyper-efficient workflow that management takes for granted. It is constructed by introducing strategic friction. You must intentionally modulate your visible execution speed, artificially stretch timelines, and deliberately overcommunicate the complexity of standard tasks. By creating a controlled illusion of difficulty, you reset the baseline expectations of the leadership team. When you finally deliver a project, it is perceived as an extraordinary, high-value triumph rather than an expected baseline service. This tactical boundary forces the organization to respect your cognitive bandwidth and prevents them from burying you under low-status administrative tasks. Mastering this calibrated scarcity allows you to preserve your peak energy, reclaim control over your operational schedule, and manipulate the perceived value of your professional output entirely. The corporate matrix heavily promotes the romantic delusion that silent, back-breaking labor in the cubicle shadows will naturally catch the eye of executive leadership. This visibility mirage keeps the most competent professionals permanently chained to operational heavy lifting, while lesser skilled political actors capture the actual rewards. The hard truth of institutional chess is that executive decision makers rarely look down into the technical engine room to see who is greasing the gears. They only notice the individuals standing on the bridge navigating the public narrative. To shatter your career ceiling, you must aggressively transition your energy away from invisible baseline production and toward high-status influence nodes. This requires a deliberate shift from doing the work to managing how the work is perceived by the upper echelons of power. You must command high-profile meetings, attach your name exclusively to cross-departmental strategic initiatives, and master the art of public documentation. Stop being the anonymous engine that fixes every broken process behind the scenes. Instead, position yourself as the ultimate conceptual architect who aligns operational outcomes with overarching business goals, forcing the executive layer to view you as a peer rather than an exploited resource. True institutional authority is never politely granted by a benevolent management team. It is systematically extracted through the ruthless application of calculated scarcity. When you remain hyper-available, endlessly compliant, and constantly eager to please every stakeholder, you reduce your personal value to that of a basic, easily accessible utility. The elite operator understands that maximum leverage is forged only when the system faces the terrifying prospect of your sudden absence. You must weaponize absolute autonomous boundaries by restricting access to your core expertise and critical problem-solving networks. Stop participating in low-yield brainstorming sessions. Refuse to volunteer for vague administrative committees, and establish hard, unyielding limits on your operational availability. When the institution realizes that your specialized execution is no longer a guaranteed, infinite resource, the power dynamic instantly shifts in your favor. Management is forced to stop treating you as a predictable infrastructure asset and must begin negotiating with you as an independent power center. This calculated withdrawal of your surplus cognitive bandwidth creates an artificial supply deficit, automatically driving up your organizational value. You use this newly engineered leverage not to demand more low-status tasks, but to aggressively negotiate for real equity, unassailable operational autonomy, and vertical high-status positions. By establishing a monopoly over your time and execution, you completely smash the competence paradox, forcing the legacy corporate structure to bend to your terms or risk catastrophic operational failure.